If you've decided to click on this video, the chances are you want a difficult save. Well, that's perfect because that's exactly what we're talking about today. I'll be sharing 5 teams that start off in the most difficult but also most interesting positions for your next FIFA career mode save. Sure, statistically, the hardest save on FIFA 23 is with Hebei CFFC in China. If that's all you're interested in, then maybe China is the save for you. However, we're going to be talking about leagues that are maybe a bit more interesting on FIFA, including the Turkish Super Lig, the Scottish Premiership, and the Dutch Eredivisie. If you decide to do any save in this video, make sure you share it over on our Discord, where I'll be reviewing another set of saves very soon. Anyway, let's get started, beginning with a team based in Europe's largest city. Based in Istanbul, Istanbul Sport are by far the worst team in the Turkish league. With a squad full of low 60 rated players, you'll need to improve in basically every single area if you want to progress up the league. From what I can tell, I cannot find a single person who's done a career mode with this club on Reddit, Discord or Twitter, so you'd be doing a truly unique save. Why not try and rebuild your team with a full Turkish squad? You could also buy a ton of Istanbul-born players to make you the best team in the capital city. But what actually makes this save so tough? Well, it's the fact that you start off so much worse than every other team in the league. You also have a lack of potential in the starting squad, and you have a tiny budget that means you'll be deciding if you want to focus on academy, first team players, or players who can actually improve as your team grows. Every pound, euro or dollar you spend, you'll have to make sure it's the right player, and that's exactly why I think Istanbul Sport is one of the toughest and also most interesting saves on FIFA 23. If you are not so interested in the big city of Istanbul, well, our next save idea is the exact opposite, where we'll be looking at Ross County from the rural north of Scotland. The fact that Ross County are the most northern team in the UK to ever feature on FIFA might not actually inspire you to start a career mode with them, but hopefully I can change your mind in this little segment. Being so northerly, Ross County don't have access to millions of youngsters that Celtic and Rangers have in Glasgow, but what they do have is outstanding scouts that give them access to some of the best players in the UK on loan. For a club of their size, Ross County have been part of the development of 5 players on FIFA who now have over 75 potential, which is absolutely crazy for such a tiny club. You'll need to make the most of your loans from England, and you'll also need to find the best young Scandinavian players for your youth academy as you progress to rival the old firm. This is the interesting part of the save, the constant movement of players from Ross County to bigger teams, while you try and reinvest the money you've earned to create a modern feeder club that's based in a town that has just 5,500 people living in it. If you can bring the Staggies back to the top, you'll have taken part in one of the toughest and most rewarding saves that you can currently do on FIFA 23. However, maybe the mountains of Scotland aren't for you. How about the Flatlands of the Dutch Eredivisie? The Eridivisie's worst team is the recently promoted FC Volendam. The fact that they're newly promoted instantly makes them interesting to most FIFA players, but the most bizarre thing about this club is that 11 of their 25 players have the outside foot shot trait. It's pretty weird, you don't usually see this kind of thing, and their squad is super interesting in other ways too. For example, they've got loans from clubs like Inter Milan and Lyon, and this is something you'll probably want to try and keep up throughout the entire save. Your Season 1 situation is tough but not impossible. You'll begin with the joint worst squad in the league and a club that expects to finish bottom. Because there's no relegation to any second divisions in Holland, this gives you a season to try and build your squad up. Honestly, I'd even consider simming the entire first season, and from Season 2 I'd try and rebuild the squad with fringe players from Ajax, PSV and Feyenoord. Of course, with Volendam being based in the Netherlands, you can also try and get a top quality youth academy going, and despite not having the worst squad or the lowest budget or the toughest start in this video, there's something about Volendam that makes me think they'd probably be the most fun of the 5 saves in this video. Staying in Europe, there is another newly promoted team that's in a very similar situation. Based in a smaller league, it might be ideal for a club and country save. You might never have heard of the Swiss club Winterthur. In fact, I knew nothing about them before writing the script for this video. So what's interesting and difficult about their situation? Well, they have a really unusual squad. They've got 2 very high potential wingers, while the rest of the squad is awful for the level that they're at. This means you'll have to develop Lateef and Di Gusto to reach their 75 potential that would make them the best wingers in the entire league, while also building an entire new squad around them. Will you go 4-3-3 and have them be your attacking and scoring outlets, or will you pick a 4-4-2 and use them to cover on both attack and defense? The idea of building a squad around 2 real players is fun, but the rest of the squad is 10% worse than any other team in the league on average. This means if the other team has a 66 rated player, in the Winterthur squad, you'll have a 60 rated player instead. Similar to Istanbul Sport, I can't find a record of anyone ever using Winterthur since they were added to FIFA this year, so why not try and rebuild them and make sure you share your saves, because I'd really enjoy to review a save based on this team. The Swiss League can be super fun on FIFA. You've got some very historic clubs in there like Grasshopper, like Zurich, so make sure you do at least give this one some consideration when it comes to building your next FIFA career mode save. For the final save we're talking about on today's video, we will be heading into the ocean. Halfway between Brazil and Portugal, you can find the small islands of the Azores. Santa Clara definitely has the best location in this list. Based on a tiny group of islands in the mid-Atlantic, Santa Clara are another team that's in a tough situation. They might not be the worst rated team in the Portuguese league, but Santa Clara are a team with barely any fans, barely any budget, and big dreams. With their proximity to South America, the squad is packed full of high potential Brazilians. This gives you the interesting challenge of trying to rebuild a European team to be a squad that's made up entirely of South Americans. To make the challenge even tougher, you might notice that the Santa Clara logo is very similar to the Benfica one. That's because Santa Clara used to be a Benfica satellite club back in the 1960s. How does this make the save tougher, you might be asking? Well, you should accept any bids on any players that come from Benfica, meaning you're strengthening a team in your league while also having more squad turnover. It can be so easy to constantly keep the same squad for years and years on FIFA, so having a squad that's constantly changing can be a very unique change to your save. With your South American squad, you should try and qualify for European football, trying to create top talents from your youth academy, and maybe see if you can try and rebuild the Azorians to be the best team in Portugal. This is a save I think that would be very interesting, while also being very tough to start off with. The majority of the young South American players that you know will basically be unaffordable until you start winning more prize money. You can do this by either doing well in the Conference League, which Santa Clara begin with, or qualifying really highly in the Portuguese First Division. There's so many different ways of playing it, and I think the Santa Clara save is probably the longest one in this video. If you came into this video expecting it to be statistically based like I've done in the past, then don't worry, I'll just quickly go through the top 5 hardest saves possible on FIFA right now. Well, Al Batan is actually the hardest, not Hebei CFFC. They're about 13% weaker on average than the rest of the Saudi league. Hebei is second, and Istanbul Sport is actually the 3rd hardest team on FIFA. Lecce in Serie A is the 4th, and Clermont-Foot in Ligue 1 is the 5th hardest save. Volendam 6th, Cremonese is 7th, and then finally Ross County is 8th. So while these might not be the very hardest saves you can possibly do, I think they're the hardest saves that are also a little bit interesting. So make sure you leave a comment if you've got any suggestions for saves that you found really tough and really interesting, and I hope you enjoyed this video. On screen is another video that I think you'd enjoy, so subscribe and check that out if you're interested. But thank you for watching, cheers and goodbye.